Welcome back, AG Sports. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Today I'm going to be going over the NFC East futures. If you've listened to other podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that, one of the most popular videos or podcasts this time of year is future bets, and just kind of trying to evaluate like your schedules and how teams are going to do and all that kind of good stuff. And there's plenty of videos out there for every different division. I'll tell you right now, I'm really only going to do the NFC East. Now, that may just be because I'm a homer Dallas Cowboys fan, but aside from just being a Cowboys fan, I am more in tune, or I pay attention more to the NFC East, just kind of like in passing even. I have all the alerts set up for all four of the teams, and everything pops up automatically. Once you get really into betting on football, you pretty much just become a fan of like everybody. But suffice it to say, I feel like I do know the NFC East just a little bit better than most other divisions. So that's why I'm going to focus on this one. So let's take a look at some of the bets that are out there. So as far as, before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe below, and a few of the bets that are out there. So you have your over-under win totals. You have to win the division, to make the playoffs, and then to not make the playoffs. Now for the NFC East, I'm going to tell you that the make the playoffs and don't make the playoffs, I'm basically leaving those out. The reason for that is don't make the playoffs, they're super juiced up. You're going to have to pay, I think it's like 300 to 1 for the Eagles, I think, or the Giants, one of the two, to just not make the playoffs, which, I mean, great. You can probably win that, but you're going to risk a lot of money. And aside from just risking a lot of money, and it's a pretty big unit size, you have to let the money sit there until the end of the season. So even if they are like 1-12 or 1-14 or whatever, you don't get paid out until the season is actually done. So if you were to start betting that now, you're going to have your money sitting there for about 19 weeks just to get that win. And to me, it's just not worth it. Secondly, though, the to make the playoffs is also not really a great bet in this one, because some other divisions, like let's say the NFC West, right? There's a opportunity there for multiple teams to make the playoffs as a wild card or whatever else it may be. The NFC East, unless everybody is absolutely wrong and some huge surprise happens, or maybe Cam Newton ends up on like the Eagles or something, and maybe changes that team up. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just giving stuff out there. I don't really see this division doing all that great. I do not see two teams from this division making the playoffs, and especially with only one wild card spot, there's just not a whole lot of opportunity there. So in order to make the playoffs, you're basically going to have to win the division, and in this case, winning the division, the odds are better than putting the to make the playoffs, because hypothetically you have at least two outs if you bet that to make the playoffs, whereas to win the division, there's only one. So for the NFC East, we're going to just be looking at over-under win totals, and then to win the division. So as far as the over-unders are concerned, let's go ahead and start off with the Cowboys, because that's how the book has it here if you're looking at the screen. Cowboys are over-under 9. I currently have them projected at 10 wins and 7 losses. Their schedule is not like ridiculously hard or anything like that, and I think just the fact that they're in the NFC East, they should get at least 4 or 5 wins out of that. I'll tell you right now, I have the Cowboys and Washington going 5-1 in the division. The Cowboys, their offense is just so potent, and there's really not a great way to stop them and play defense against them. Plus, the Eagles and the Giants struggle on defense, even with the worst of teams. I just don't think this is going to be their year, and for that reason, I think the Cowboys are going to most likely sweep those teams, and then they'll probably split with Washington. And the same thing for Washington, but for the other reason. Washington's defense is so good, and Washington does have a pretty potent offense, not as high-powered as the Cowboys, but with guys like Terry McLaurin and Gibson and even Logan Thomas there to maybe stretch the field and keep the chains moving, they have enough with Ryan Fitzpatrick to put some points on the board, and their defense is going to really give people problems just all over the field. So I do again see them sweeping the Giants and the Eagles and probably splitting with the Cowboys. And the Washington Cowboys games, those are going to be really good, because it's going to come down to how many mistakes does Dak make? because if the Washington defense can make Dak make mistakes and kind of get him out of his game, they'll win. If Dak plays to the level that he's capable of and he's utilizing guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and people that, you know, no matter how good your defense is, the offense is going to get the nod because of the way the NFL is shaped today. If he's using those guys correctly and the offense is schemed correctly, they should be able to win the game. So that's enough of that. As far as just over-under wins, like I said, I have them at 10-7. For that reason, I'm not betting this over-under. It's only a one-game difference. And to me, obviously no one's 100%, so I'm sure they're going to win a game that I'm not expecting them to win, and they're probably going to lose a game I'm not expecting them to lose. Aside from that, you have injuries that can happen, whether it's to Dak or Zeke, or multiple injuries that start going around the team that cause them to lose, or, you know, one or two games more than I'm expecting them to. So there's a whole lot of ways that this can stay under or just push. And like I said, even this kind of bet is still, again, if you're betting it today, you're looking at a 19-week wait, or having your money tied up for 19 weeks before it's even in your, you know, casino account, and then you got to still wait for it to be sent over to you, depending on how you get your funds out. So I'm not touching that one. If you want to go through their schedule, you definitely can. Some of their easier games, outside of the division, are against teams that we really don't know that well for sure. So I am considering them, you know, easier opponents. But like, for example, let's say the Saints. When I looked at this initially, I thought, okay, that's a team that they can beat, a team that's still kind of trying to piece it together at quarterback. And with Jameis Winston there, they play later in the season. They're not playing them like week one. Jameis could have turned the corner by then, and they may have Michael Thomas back by then, and Kamara might be firing on all cylinders by then. And if that's the case, then it is more of a toss-up and not a straight win. So for those, again, like I said, for all those reasons, I'm not touching that one. They may have an outside shot at winning the division. I do think Washington's probably your best bet there, but we'll get into that in a second. Next is the Giants. Their over-under is 7. Now, this is one that I actually really like, and I like the under 7, especially because it's paying the plus 105, which usually these are a little bit more juiced up, especially for a team that we're not really considering to be a great team. I think some of this is just, you know, New York fandom keeping the line on the over pretty high as far as juice is concerned, and giving us this under with a little bit of a better payout. Now, the Giants do have a tough road ahead of them, and so just to start with their team, Daniel Jones has not really looked very good. He has a tough time just maintaining possession of the ball. Kenny Golladay was really their biggest offseason acquisition, and he still has not practiced with Daniel Jones. They have not connected on one pass yet. He did not play in preseason. He's had an injury. Daniel Jones has had very limited preseason time, and no real connection has been formed there yet, at least. Now, that may get better as the season goes on, but you're going to have to start the season at least with a pretty poor connection from those two, and that's assuming that these guys can stay healthy throughout the year. Aside from that, Saquon, obviously, you know, their best player, or if not the best, the second best player on the team, has not had much of any, you know, preseason work. I mean, he started working out, kind of doing some team workouts this last week or so, but he has not really had any full game speed action for over a year now, or about a year at this point. So even if he comes back, and I know that being a running back is not the same as being a quarterback, so maybe he doesn't have as much rust, but it's still going to take him a little bit of time to kind of get used to it here. He's still got to make sure he can trust his own body when he's, you know, making these cuts and getting through the hole and just playing at a full speed against other NFL players. It's going to be a little bit of a curve for him, so I don't expect them to get off to a hot start, and their schedule does not make it any easier. I'm going to pull it up real quick here. So they're playing the Broncos week 1. The Broncos are scary, sleeper good. And I say that it's kind of a weird amalgamation of words there. So I don't mean they're scary good as in they're going to go win the Super Bowl. But they are a sleeper that's going to surprise a lot of teams, especially early in the season. Guys like Teddy Bridgewater, they may not be really splashy, but he knows how to protect the ball. And he loves working his slot receivers. And you have Jerry Jeudy on one side. Cortland Sutton, and maybe he's not 100% yet, but he's at least playing. He's going to get going. And even in game 1, I could see him making a play or two. Javonte Williams is apparently making a lot of noise in preseason and in camp and just doing really well. And the coaching staff there has been just praising him like nobody else. And they really have a lot of high expectations for the kid. So I do think he's going to have a little role carved out for himself. I don't care if Melvin Gordon is the starter or not. I think he's going to see the field. And as the season goes on, he's going to get better. But even in week 1, when they play the Giants, that Broncos team is going to have more firepower, they're going to have more health, and they're going to be able to protect the ball better than the Giants. So I don't see that as a win. Then they go play Washington again. I don't see that as a win. They play the Falcons. Who knows what's the Falcons and the Saints? Who knows what's going to happen there? Those teams are just kind of toss-ups right now until we see them on the field. And then they come to play the Cowboys, and then they go from the Cowboys to playing the Rams, two teams which should have pretty high-powered offenses that I don't think the Giants are going to match up with. And so if you're starting the season, even if they win those two games that we don't know anything about, if they start off with a 2-4 record, really puts them behind and trying to get into that 7-win mark. And so I personally have them projected for a pretty low, I believe it's like 4 wins. Yes, a 4-13 season. So at 4 wins, I see them staying under this 7-win mark pretty handily, and I don't think it's even going to be an issue. I don't think it's going to be in question towards the end of the season. After the Giants, so we do have the Eagles at over under 7. Same thing here. I think that the under would be the play if you want to play it, but I'm not going to touch it. I have them right now at a 6-11 season, and that, again, just with a 1-game difference, there's too many things that can go wrong. That ball can bounce the wrong way. They can get, a good turnover at the right time. They can maybe just get hot. Jalen Hurts is better than we're expecting, and end up hitting that 7-game mark. Now, I will say that they do have everybody back healthy, which means that their offense should be better than a lot of us are expecting, or than a lot of us remember. So I wouldn't be too surprised if they have a better showing than I'm thinking, but I think 7's probably about a right win mark for them. All right, and lastly, and I'll try to wrap this up, guys, is Washington, and the over-under is 8.5. I'll tell you right now, it's the only one I would feel comfortable taking the over on, but I don't really like the juice at -140. Over-under 8.5. So last year, they finished at 7-9. And the biggest thing that they've done this offseason, of course, was bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick. And their schedule itself plays out easy enough. But really one of the things I like to look at here is this one-score win percentage. And so they're going from 2-5 last year, the 29% win percentage, to more likely like a 50-50 win percentage. Probably looking at 4-4, 5-3, and increasing that win rate from a 7-9 season to more of like a 10-7 season or 11-6 kind of season. So with this slight adjustment in one-score win percentage, I think we see them, like I said, not only cross that threshold as far as going from a 29% one-score win percentage to something more like a 50% win-score percentage, maybe even higher, maybe even like a 60%. But I think that gets them above that threshold of 8.5. And really, even last year, I thought that was the only thing holding them back, was not having an aggressive quarterback. I know Alex Smith was probably the best quarterback they had last year, and he just really never pushed the ball down the field. It was a lot of like horizontal play. It was a lot of checkdowns to Gibson, a lot of maybe slants or out routes for McLaurin, and not really willing to push the ball down the field. And so when Tyler Heinicke came in there, he also was not really accurate downfield, and he didn't really want to pass downfield, but he had mobility with his legs, so it just added that extra element of kind of attack or surprise to that offense, and it helped them. And actually, if you don't remember, they pushed the Buccaneers in the playoffs to the brink. I mean, Heinicke had those guys, as close to the ropes as you can get them, and had Heinicke not gotten injured in that game, I believe he suffered a shoulder injury, that might have turned out differently. That's not to say that Washington is better than the Buccaneers or anything like that, but they had a real opportunity there. And last year, like I said, had they had Ryan Fitzpatrick or really any quarterback that was just a little bit more aggressive, I think that they not only finish above 50%, but I think they maybe have a better playoff run, because they probably had a better playoff opponent had they done a little bit better. But that's my take on Washington. You can look through the schedule if you want. If you notice, I'm not really breaking down all the schedules for each of these teams because you can go through line by line and say, okay, I think they're going to win this one. I think they're going to win this one. I think they're going to lose that one. That's fine, and it's speculation right now, and that's totally acceptable. The only thing is you have no idea what's going to happen in week 2, in week 3, in week 7, in week 9. There might be serious injuries that come up between now and then. There could be trades. There could be fallouts from cuts like Cam Newton. Could be lots of different things that happen between now and then. So what we think today may not necessarily be what we think 3 weeks from now. And for that, because of those things, it's hard to just really go down and say, okay, well, I'm going to give them this one, and not this one. Or at least to be very accurate with it. So I like to take kind of the holistic approach and see, okay, where can they improve from last year, and where do I think they're going to maybe fall off from last year, and then the schedule is just kind of like a general map, just a guide or compass, I guess, where it's not going to give me a specific win total, but I'm going to try and kind of get close to it. Lastly, though, as far as the bet for the division, I would be taking Washington. The over-unders, really, the only one I would want to touch is the under 7 for the Giants. Like I said, there's so many outs for that. If they are just truly as bad as I think they're going to be, under 7 is not a problem. If Saquon Barkley is not healthy, as we get into the middle of the year, he's still not healthy. He's not playing right. If Daniel Jones gets hurt at any time, if Kenny Golladay is not healthy and they don't have a true number 1 receiver again, all of those things, it doesn't take all of them. It could just be one of those items, and them reaching 7 wins is asking for a lot. So taking the under 7 to me is my favorite bet. The only one I would ever possibly consider would be the over for Washington, but that is so juiced up, and that's to me kind of it's still a toss-up. Like I said, injuries can always happen, and aside from that, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he might play great the first 4 games and then fall off a cliff after that. So putting your money in Ryan Fitzpatrick is always kind of a risk in and of itself. So that's what we have for over-unders. But as far as the division is concerned, I do like Washington as far as the division is concerned. Like I said, I don't have any faith in the Eagles or the Giants to really make a strong showing in this division. I just don't think they're going to have much of anything to put together. I could be totally wrong about the Eagles. Maybe they surprise me, and theirs is more of a health concern. I think neither me nor most people out there have a really fair comparison to draw from, because last year their team was just so banged up that if you're just strictly trying to do apples to apples from last year to this year, the player may be the same, like Miles Sanders is still there, but how different does that run game look now that all the linemen are back? How different is that defense now that everybody's back? Jalen Hurts is starting the full season, and hopefully they actually put an offense around him. And again, they have a new coach, so that's another item that's kind of a wild card. Most first-year head coaches don't do very well, but if he maybe comes in, and again, I don't expect him to have a hot start, but if he kind of finds out what he's doing by week 5, week 6, instead of taking until week 15 or 16, then they have a shot at least. I don't think that they're going to win. Like I said, my assumption here would be that the Giants actually do come in last place for this division, and so because the Cowboys and Washington are both pretty equal as far as payout is concerned, you're looking at about a +5 difference for Washington. But my win total expectation is higher for Washington. The defense is better for Washington. I think that defense will travel, and I don't think they're going to have a rust issue with Washington. One of the biggest concerns I have for the Cowboys this year is the rust concern, specifically for Dak Prescott. He has not played in over a year. If you've heard my other videos, you've heard this, or around a year at this point. And they're going to ask him to go in there and play against Tampa and then play against the Chargers. 2 really good defenses, 2 really good offenses that are going to require him to step up and play at 100% to keep it competitive. And if he just doesn't have it those first 2 weeks and you're staring down an 0-2 season, I can see some pressing going on, some different schemes coming into play, and them trying to maybe make him do more than he's comfortable with too soon. And so, like I said, first of all, 0-2, I don't want to look at that. Secondly, though, I don't know where they go from there. and that's kind of the deal breaker for me and the Cowboys, and them not stressing him too much and stressing themselves out too much as far as the coaching staff is concerned. Washington, I don't think is going to have that problem. I think they'll at least get one win in the first 2 weeks, probably be sitting like a 1-1 schedule, and then from there it's just hey, just kind of keep pace with everybody, do what you got to do, and you don't need to ask Ryan Fitzpatrick to go win games for you, which is probably the biggest difference compared to any other team he's played for. Even like with the Dolphins last year, they had a great defense, but because Tua was kind of erratic once they started throwing him in there were times that Ryan Fitzpatrick had to come in and kind of save the day. And even at the beginning of the season, Ryan Fitzpatrick was kind of expected to get some wins from that team that it might have been a little bit easier had they not had those high expectations. Washington brought him in there with the full expectation of, look, we're going to run through our defense. We're going to rely on the defense to get us good field position, to kind of slow down these other offenses. We just need you to be decent. We just need you to not lose the game. Don't worry about being a hero. We'll let you know when we need one. And then with guys like Terry McLaurin, like I said, the good surroundings, just positional values around him, I really think that Washington can take this division. As a Cowboys fan, I would love to see them win, but at the end of the day, I'm a gambler first and a fan second, and so I got to take Washington with this one. But hopefully you guys got something out of all this. If you do have any questions on this, anything that maybe you see that kind of perks your interest when you look through the schedules for these 4 teams, let me know. I looked through them, and they all, like most divisions, they all pretty much play the same teams, so it's not really a whole lot that stands out. But let me know if you see something. Good luck out there, guys. Hopefully you'll follow me with one of these plays, and have a great day.